Well, excuse the tail. That is my cat deciding that she wants in on the fun tonight. Go away, animal. Welcome to the Storytelling Association of California's July genre show, Humorous and Laughing Stories. Now, I know you all know who the Storytelling Association of California is, but I'll just remind you that we are a nonprofit membership organization dedicated to promoting storytelling as a living art form. We try to have something for everyone, and tonight is going to be a very specially enjoyable something for everyone because it's our humorous night. We've got 7 tellers. 2 are from Canada, 1's from India, 3 are from the East Coast, 3 are from the West Coast, and as I said, 1 is from India. So I would say that this is a pretty good, diverse, international, interesting group. And they're telling all kinds of stories, but all of them funny. I'm going to ask you if you'll all be sure to mute yourselves while the storytellers are speaking.
Tina, you can unmute yourself, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. In fact, Property has already muted you. And do feel free to put comments in the chat for the speakers, especially once they've finished. It's really nice for them to hear what you thought of their work. Let's start out with our first teller. He's Raymond Pierce from Toronto, Canada, representing Contra Costa Tail Spinners. His mission as a storyteller is to bring joy and laughter wherever he can. And he does this by sending weekly emails with morning smiles and lighthearted short personal stories to the folks on his list. His favorite comedian is Robin Williams because Robin's humor is so spontaneous. Now, Raymond's story is a fractured fairy tale, and it's called, let me take a deep breath here, Dincerella and the Pransom Hints. Please welcome Raymond Pierce.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm just put my email address in the chat box. There it is. If anybody is interested in my complimentary weekly family-friendly humor and a personal lighthearted story, all you have to do is email me and I'd be happy to include you on my mailing list. So, and this story, by the way, if anyone wants a video copy of me telling this story, Dincerella and the Pransom Hints, I have that available too. And you're free to share it with family and friends. I just ask that it does not be put on Facebook and social media, but you certainly share it with family and friends. So here we go. Now, I first learned this story in 1988 and have got a lot of mileage out of it. And it took me a month to memorize it. And you will see why in a moment, why it took me a full month to memorize this story. So, as some fairy tales begin, once upon a time in a foreign country, this story begins, "Once upon a wine in a corn fun tree, there were these beautiful girls. Unfortunately, 2 of them were sad bisters, and they lived with their muggly udder. And our heroine, Dincerella. Well, one day, this Pransom Hints, he had come to this corn fun tree, and he decided to throw a bouncy fall for all the beautiful girls in the corn fun tree. Well, when the 2 sad bisters and their muggly udder heard about the bouncy fall, why, they went out to the shopping center and bought, guess what? Why, new dancy fesses to wear to the Bancy Fall. Well, poor Dincerella. She didn't have a dancy fess to wear to the Bancy Fall. All she had were her riddy dags, and she cranked out inside. But fever near, who should drop by that night? Why, her Gary Fudmudder. You remember her, the one with the magic wand? Well, her Gary Fudmudder weighed her magic wand and transformed Dincerella's riddy dags into a magnificent mess with a stink mo. Now, I'm going to repeat that because I know you want to go home and tell this story to your families tonight. So that's a magnificent mess with a stink mo. Translation, a magnificent dress with a mink stole. Well, then Gary Fodmother weighed her magic wand again and made her a gig boach with X sources to pull it. Cinderella was really excited about all this, but her Gary Fodmother warned her, beware of the moke of Stridnight, because at the moke of Stridnight, everything will return back to the way it was. Well, that didn't deter Dincerella. She was still excited about her new magnificent mess with the stink mo. She climbed into that gig boat and she drove those X horses down to the palace for the Bancy Fall, mind you. Well, that Pransome Hints, he had met Dincerella at the Dunt Four because he had seen her coming through a wooden window. And he escorted Dincerella up the beps, up the palace beps, and into the fall boom. Well, they had a wonderful time. They danced and danced all night. But sure enough, at the moke of Stridnight, the mock on the wall went wing wang, and Dincerella realized, I better get home in a hurry. So she ran out of the fall boom, and as she's running down the palace steps, you know what happened? Why, she slopped her dripper. Yes, she slopped her dripper on the stardom of the BEP and disappeared. Well, that Pransome Hints, he had come a running after Dincerella, and he found that dripper which had been slopped on the stardom of the BEP, and he picked it up and saved it. Well, the next day, that Pransome Hints, he went throughout the whole corn fun tree, visiting every beautiful burl in that corn fun tree, and trying that slop dripper on the foot of each one to see whose foot it fitted. Well, finally, at last, he arrived at the home of Dincerella, and he went in and he tried that slop dripper on the foot of the first sad mister. And you know what? It fitted it. It fitted it. He tried it on the foot of the second sad mister. And of course, it fitted her either. And he even tried it on the foot of the mugly udder. And we certainly know it fitted her. Well, finally, at last, he did try it on Dincerella. And yes, it fitted it. It really fitted it. And we all know how that story ended. Why? They were mappily harried and they lived happily ever after. And that's the truth. And that's E10. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Raymond. That was absolutely delightful. Oh, look at all the little clapping hands that you're getting.
Thank you.
That
Thank
was
you.
perfectly wonderful. Normally, I like to interview the tellers after their stories, but I tell you what, let's go through all the stories first, and then I'll have you all come up and be spotlighted together, and we'll talk to each one of you for a minute or two. Okay? Can you stand by? Thank you. Our second teller tonight is Rona Leventhal. Rona hails from Massachusetts and has been sharing her passion for the power of the spoken story for 35 years, putting laughter in the belly and smiles in the hearts of listeners from as far away as Australia and Morocco to her town of 1,700 people. She really loves Paula Poundstone. Rona will give us one or maybe two short stories on the theme of resourcefulness pays off. Please welcome Rona Leventhal.
That didn't work. I'm sorry. I'm trying to. Oh, that's weird. I was trying to hide myself, but instead it highlighted me. Interesting. Hide self-view. Okay, well, that didn't work. All right, we'll just go with it then. Hi, everybody. So I spend a good part of my life peeing. Now, this is not a bad thing. I truly believe that those of us in the frequency club, perhaps some of you are with me, are some of the most resourceful people that I know. In fact, I have made an art out of finding the most unusual places to pee, much to the dismay of many of my traveling friends. You see, I am one of those people who would rather pee behind the gas station rather than in the gas station, if you know what I mean. I have peed in parking lots and vacant lots and gravel pits and in people's driveways. I have mingled with waterfalls on the tops of mountains. I have fertilized barren plains, and I have melted snow. Now, I pee so often that I have developed a set of acronyms of the different types of peas that I have. And I'd like to share the three most important ones with you right now. The first one is the PP. That is the preventative pee. You know, you pee before you leave the house so that you don't have to pee 10 minutes down the road. And then there is the PIP, the pull in and pee, like you're driving down the road and you pull in to a McDonald's, for instance. And then there is the POP, which is the pull over and pee, as if by the side of the road. Now, I've been telling this story for a while. And while it's a very personal thing, people always come up to me afterwards and they share their own acronyms with me that they spontaneously come up with. And I want to share with you some of my favorite of the ones that I have heard. And there's so many double entendres here. So for instance, there is the AP, which is the accidental P, which could lead to the LP, the laughing P. And the LP could also be the long P. There is the FPB, the full bladder P. There is the OPP, the overpowered P. That's when the bladder is so full that when you pee, it goes everywhere. That, by the way, from a 14-year-old boy. There is the ESP, the extraordinary spectacular P, or the ability of parents to know exactly when the kids have to pee. There's also the DP, the dancing P. Those are reserved for kids. And then there is the PAP, the performance anxiety P, which all of you, I'm sure, are familiar with. And then there is the very important HP, which is the hovering P for those of us women who have been in those unsavory situations. Now, as you can tell, I am not embarrassed by this subject or the act of doing so. But there was one time. When I was 27 years old, I was on a semester-long course from the National Outdoor Leadership School, which is a Wyoming-based organization, but the semester was in Kenya. And the last part of the program was sailing on these beautiful traditional dhow sailing vessels that the Muslim population who live on the coast traditionally used to mostly to take mangrove poles to be used as the masts on these very ships that we were on. And as you might imagine, being in the Frequency Club, I was no more than 20 or 30 minutes into my trip on the Dow when, of course, I had to pee. Now, you have to understand this. This was not a large boat for the 20 of us in my course, plus the crew. And you have to also understand that this was just the deck. There was no below deck, if you know what I mean. And so I went to the captain and I asked him how I am supposed to take care of my situation. And he said, "Follow me." And he went to the back of the boat, to the stern of the boat, and all 19 of my course mates followed to see what would happen, as did some of the crew. And then the crew members lifted up a 4x4 piece of the deck and essentially showed me the below deck was the hull of the boat. And then the captain handed me a metal pail. And I said to him, "You want me to go in there?" He goes, "No, it's okay." I said, "No, it's okay. I'll wait." No, it's not good to wait. I have a cloth. We'll cover it up." So what was I supposed to do? We were, after all, on an adventure program, and there were 24 people standing around wondering what I was going to do. And so I hopped into the hull of the boat and they covered it up. And I straddled that metal pail. And let me tell you, folks, my pee hit that pail like a hard rain on a tin roof. It was quite an extraordinary auditory experience, if I do say so myself. But the problem is that this acronym that I mentioned earlier, the PAP, came into play. And so when I peed the first time, I didn't empty my bladder all the way. And so 30 minutes later, I had to pee. And so I went back to the captain, hoping to avoid the same embarrassing situation. And I asked him if there was any way I could do what I needed to do. And he said that there was, and that was to crawl over the side of the boat and hang onto a rope that was strung horizontally along the boat and pee in the water with my clothes on while the boat was moving. Sounds easy, right? But the only problem is that even under sail, not motor, but under sail, the boat was moving so quickly and the swishing sound of the water was so loud that I couldn't tell whether I was peeing or not. It was a very unsatisfying situation, I must say. But the good thing is that, unbeknownst to me, I was collecting these acronyms. And now I had two more, another HP, the hanging P, and the BP, the bucket P. Now, if my little tale was too suggestive for you and you have to run to the bathroom right now, I know you're all safely in your homes, and so you can use the TP method, the toilet pee method. But if you ever meet me at a storytelling event someplace and the line to the women's room is too long, you can meet me out back behind the dumpster. May the peace be with you.
Have you got another little story for us,
I
Rhoda?
do.
All right, let's go with it.
Okay, fabulous. So here's my second one. Older brothers can be useful sometimes. When I was in college, I took my first adventure trip. It was a 3-week canoe trip in the Everglades. And before I left, my older brother gave his words of wisdom. And he said, "Go and experience it as if you'll never be there again, because you won't be, probably." And he was right. I have never had an experience exactly like that again. When I was in my early 20s, just moved from living in New Mexico back to Massachusetts, and I complained every day after I stayed. I complained every day about how the sun would go down at 3 o'clock and it would never come up again. And I was ready to pack my car and head on back to Massachusetts. And my older brother gave me his words of wisdom. And he said, if you're going to move, move from a place of strength, not of weakness. And he was right. And I stayed in Massachusetts. When I went on my first backpacking trip, it was with my older brother, and it was in the spring in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. And spring in the White Mountains at the higher elevation meant cold and snow, and lots of it. So when we finally got to our three-sided shelter that we were going to stay in that night, I had to pee so badly. But it was freezing. And the last thing I wanted to do was to expose any flesh that I didn't have to expose. And so I waited. I just held on to it until we finished eating our dinner and we were ready to crawl into our sleeping bags. And then I said to my brother, where should I go? And he said, just go over there behind the bushes. And so I did. And I did exactly what I'd always done up to that point, which was to sit on the ground. But it was so cold that every orifice in my body went, and I couldn't pee. And I realized then there are some things that a big brother just can't help a girl with.
What a delightful coda. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. I know it's late, but can you stick around till
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
end?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely. I wouldn't
get
miss
to know
this.
you a little bit better.
I'm going to take my camera off for a minute.
That's just fine. Yes. Our third East Coast storyteller is Corey Howard. Corey's a storyteller who's performed at the National Storytelling Festival's Exchange Place, and he's also been a Moth Story Slam Grand Slam winner. Corey spends most of his time traveling the country, hosting his original show, The Campfire Ball, a storytelling program designed to find ways to get the audience to share their stories with him. That sounds interesting. Corey's favorite humorous person at this exact moment, he says, is essayist David Sedaris. Corey can't get enough of Sedaris's never-ending curiosity and fascinating points of view. Plus, they're both late bloomers. Sedaris didn't publish his first book until he was 38, and Corey didn't discover his love of storytelling until he was 39. And finally, they both grew up in North Carolina, one of the quietly strangest states in the country. Please welcome Corey Howard with his story entitled Fixed Flicks.
Thank you so much, Tina. What an incredible intro. Where did you get that information from? That was amazing. Well researched. All right, folks, before I get started, I just want to take a really quick poll. Those of you who are on camera, just by a show of hands, raise your hand if you oppose conflict. Like if you're given a choice between having conflict or not having conflict, you would choose not having conflict. Let me see. Okay, great, beautiful. The next few minutes are going to be a cinch. So I know that many of you are here for storytelling, and I'm going to deviate from that, but I think you're going to be glad that I did, because I'm about to offer you the investment opportunity of a lifetime. Okay, so now I have you all on record here. Now this is being recorded, right, Tina? Yes, that's right. So you're all on record voicing your opinion that you oppose conflict. Well, did you know that 100%, and I've done the research, 100% of every movie ever made, and I'm including summer blockbusters down to underground hidden gems, every single movie ever made contains conflict? Can you believe that? I mean, some of them in droves, like take Home Alone, for example. That poor little child is ripped from his family and pursued by burglars for 90 minutes straight. And he's what, 8, 9 years old at most. So how can we, the good people who oppose conflict, accept such a movie like that? Well, that's why I'm here to offer you the opportunity to invest in a brand new movie streaming platform for people like you and I who are conflict averse. Allow me to introduce to you Fixed Flicks. Fixed Flicks takes, re-edits, and remakes and removes all of that horrible conflict from a pantheon of the classic movies we've come to get to know over the years. Okay? So let me just give you a little sampling of our wares. Da-da, da-da. The year is 1975. 50 years ago this summer, Jaws, this little nugget of domestic terrorism, comes out, and it scares people so badly that beaches actually have a dip in tourism numbers the summer it comes out. This is a quote from a CBS Sunday News program that I found while researching this streaming service platform. The host says, North Carolina mountains are experiencing record high numbers of tourism, but in Carolina Beach, there's a slump, and tourist officials are blaming Jaws. This really happened, folks. A movie really scared people off the beach. Now, I don't need to tell you why we can't have a movie like that existing in our culture. So this is how the Fixed Flicks version of Jaws will play out. It's a lovely summer in coastal New England. It's so lovely, in fact, that the chief of police has virtually nothing to do. So he spends most of his time chit-chatting and hanging out with the very happy mayor, who's so happy because the tourist numbers of vacationers at the beach are sky high, and he has the economic statistics to back it up. Among these beachgoers are the happy-go-lucky oceanographer and the wizened sea captain, the two of whom never have any occasion to interact or meet each other at all. Meanwhile, far, far off the coast, a dignified and noble great white shark skims the Atlantic Ocean, admiring the wonder of the underwater realm. Once that movie screens on Fixed Flicks, people will not have any reason to be afraid of the ocean again. In fact, once Fixed Flicks becomes a success, which it will thanks to your investments, most people won't have any reason to think anything bad can happen to them out in the world at all. Another example, the seminal film that introduced the world to beloved musical icon Prince. I am, of course, referring to Purple Rain. Does everyone remember this film? All right, a little backstory about my life. I grew up in a small town without any major influences. And by that, I mean I didn't have any older brothers or cool older friends to introduce me to good music or literature or movies. And the town was so small, there wasn't an interesting theater or a comedy club or a music venue for me to get inspiration from or hone an artistic craft or even be part of a creative community. Yet somehow I managed, probably due to the influence of movies like this, to carve out a dream for myself that I wanted to be a professional performer, which is absurd. And before I saw Purple Rain, I had a perfectly valid excuse to accept failure and go back to my normal, regular life. But after Purple Rain, guess what I saw? A young man like myself in a small town like I was, who had very little influences and overcame his obstacles and went on to become one of the premier performers of the modern era. The movie taught me that anything is possible. And look at me, here I am at 43 years old, still trying to carve out a living as a storyteller. It's sad. It's pathetic. The Fixed Flicks version of Purple Rain will bring the dreamers back down to reality where they belong, okay? This is how that movie would go. In a small town outside of Minneapolis, a young man gets the blessing of his supportive parents, who are very much still together and in love, by the way, to go see his favorite band at a music club, a group called Morris Day and the Time. The young man has a lovely evening and decides he is perfectly contented to go back home, his cup filled, to return to his life fixing motorcycles and going on long rides with his emotionally stable girlfriend, Apollonia. Just think about how good a movie like that would have done me and countless others without the influence of other movies teaching us that we can overcome our obstacles to achieve our dreams. I would be perfectly contented to go back to my decent and okay and regular life, and there wouldn't be all this angst and struggle and questioning this or that and actually having to figure out if I have any talent or not. The last example I want to leave you with for the catalog of the fixed flicks films is probably the most potent, powerful example that we have at our disposal. And this is a movie from the year 2000 starring Tom Hanks in a volleyball. Anybody? Castaway. That's right. Oh, the existential strife and the turmoil this film has caused my life. Friends, the number one wrinkle that I face in my partnership with my romantic partner is that in this quest to become a professional storyteller, I have to travel a lot. I'm gone all the time. In fact, just this summer alone, I was in Berkeley, which is, I think, your part of the world, in Los Angeles. I was in Cincinnati. I've been in Cape Cod. And my partner has a fear, probably prodded on by movies like Castaway, that one day while out on the road, and this is true, I am going to notice that wherever I am is better than what I am coming back to. Our small world, our small life here in Johnson City, Tennessee. And one day while I'm out on the road, she fears I'm just never going to come back. Which is exactly the fate that befell Tom Hanks when his FedEx plane crashed on that island. My partner and I have this argument so much, in fact, I've begun to feel she thinks it's my responsibility to reassure her, like it's my job to atone for the sins of Hollywood. Yet, here I am trying to do just that with the fixed flicks version of Castaway. A man delivers a package to a woman with an angel wings fixation in such a timely manner that he's able to get back to his wife in time for dinner to settle down and watch his beloved Tennessee Titans play in the Super Bowl. This man has such an enjoyable evening that he decides to have a rousing game of volleyball with his best friends. The end. Once the world gets a hold of the fixed flicks version of Castaway, I promise you, divorce rates in this country will plummet. We finally have the chance to stop the vicious cycle of conflict. Think of what I can do with the countless hours I'll have after no longer arguing with my partner over dreams I'm no longer struggling to achieve. Maybe I can go relax on a beach I'm no longer afraid to visit. So you see, do you see how much better off we'll be without conflict in our lives? And now I'm giving you the chance to actually do something about it, to invest in fixed flicks today. Seriously, do it. Do it, or else you may never be conflict free for the rest of your lives. Thank you.
Ooh, you are so scary, Corey. That was such fun. Thank you so very, very much. All right, it's just fine if you want to go off screen for a little bit, and we will get back to you towards the end of the show. Now for our fourth teller, Shilpa Mehta. It's early in the morning on Thursday morning in India. Shilpa is known as Shilpa Story Rack in storytelling circles. She's a passionate storytelling enthusiast committed to creating a positive impact and spreading joy through the magic of storytelling. Shilpa loves to tell stories in Hindi and English through her YouTube channel, Shilpa Story Rack, with audiences from small children to adults. Shilpa has performed on national and global platforms and is the reading champion for storytelling sessions with Pratham Books under the One Day, One Story campaign in Jaipur, where she lives. Her fictional woven stories, retold folk tales, have found their way in various anthologies. Shilpa likes the bumbling and innocent performances of Laurel and Hardy, converting simple everyday situations into disastrous tangles. Please welcome Shilpa Mehta with Smart Jack.
Thank Thank you so much, and good morning, good evening to everyone from whichever part of the world you are joining. Well, it's a beautiful morning for me in India, and I am all set for the morning. But what about Jack? Oh, that lazy Jack who lived with his mom, whose mom weaved yarns and sold in the market to make their living. Curious to know whether Jack was also working? No. He was a lazy lad. In the summertime, he would just go and lie down in a field to watch the clouds drifting by and just daydream. In winter, oh, he would be there in their tiny cottage and lie close to the fire, watching his mother as she worked, spun, weaved. And one day she said, Jack, I want you to go out and get some work done today. Well, okay, see you, Mom. And off he went. He walked and he walked and he walked and he reached a farm. He asked the farmer, have you got any work? And the farmer said, oh, yeah, come in, come in. Jack worked for the farmer all day. And at the end of the day, the farmer gave him a coin. Yes, a big shiny silver coin. Oh, Jack was so happy. It was the first money he got. Yeah! Oh, I've got money, I am rich. I've got money and I am rich. Oh, Mama's going to be so proud of me. And as he was walking, he had to go across a little stream. He was happily crossing the stream and singing, and oops! The coin fell into the stream. And it was a very fast stream of water. And he couldn't see the coin anywhere. When he told his mom what had happened, she said, oh, no, you silly boy. You should have kept the coin in your pocket. Then you wouldn't have lost it. Oh, yeah. Why didn't I think of that? Well, the next day, his mom sent him off to work again and again. Right. So he went to a herdsman and asked the herdsman, have you got any work? Oh, yeah. Come in. I want you to look after my herd of cows. Oh, yeah. That's easy peasy. And Jack worked for the herdsman the whole day. At the end of the day, the herdsman gave him a jug of fresh cow's milk. Jack thanked the herdsman and took that jug of milk. And then he remembered what his mom had said. Right, yeah. So I have to put it in my pocket. Yes. So he squashed it in there and started walking home. And as he was walking, the milk splashed, sloshed, and soon his whole shirt was sopping wet with milk. When he got home and mom saw this, oh, no, you silly boy, why did you put that jug in your pocket? You should have carried it on your head. Oh, yeah. Why didn't I think of that? Well, the next day, the mother sent him off again to look for work. And off he went. He reached a farm and said, excuse me, do you have any work for me? Oh, yeah. Come in. Just help me to keep these cream cheeses up on my wagon to take them to the market. Jack did that. They went to the market and sold those really good cream cheese. At the end of the day, the farmer said, oh, there's just one cream cheese left. And he gave it to Jack. And Jack thought, what did mom say? Ah, yes, to carry it on my head. And so he put that cream cheese on his head and he started walking and walking. The sun was shining and the solid cream cheese began to melt and started dripping on his face. When he got home, his mom had one look and said, oh, no, you silly boy, you should have carried it in your hands. Oh, yeah. Why didn't I think of that? Well, the next day he went to the baker. Do you have any work for me? Yes, of course, there's lots of work to do. Jack worked for the whole day in the baker's shop. And at the end of the day, the baker gave him, no, not a loaf, but a tomcat, a male cat. What did mom say? Yes, to carry it in my hands. So he carried the tomcat, but the tomcat didn't like to be held, and with its sharp claws, it began to scratch and scratch and scratch Jack and leapt out of his hand. Poor Jack, he came home nothing except lot of scratches on his arms. When his mom heard everything, she said, "Oh no, you silly boy, you should have tied it with a string and pulled it along." Oh yeah, why didn't I think of that? Well, the next day he went to the market to the butcher shop. Excuse me, Mr. Butcher, is there any work for me? Yes, of course, there's lots of work to do. So he worked for the whole day at the butcher's shop. And at the end of the day, the butcher gave him a beautiful piece of meat. And what did Jack do? Exactly what his mom had asked him to do. So he tied the meat, that lovely shoulder of mutton, and began to drag it along the road. And by the time he got home, that beautiful piece of mutton was mangled and muddy, mucky, and inedibly yucky. And the moment his mother saw this, "Oh no, you silly boy, you should have carried it on your shoulder, and then we might have cooked it for dinner." Oh, yeah. Sorry, mom. Why didn't I think of that? Well, the next day, he went to a washerman to look for some work. He worked for the whole day, and at the end of the day, the washerman gave him a donkey. And he thought, wow, my mom would be so happy when she sees that I have come home with a donkey. She'll be able to pack all her things and take them to the market on donkey. So easy. I have finally done something right. And what did mom say? Remember? Yes, to put it on his shoulder. So he puts the donkey on his shoulder and started singing. And as he was walking home that way, he passed the house of a rich merchant. Now, this merchant had a daughter who never laughed. And he announced that he will marry his daughter to the man who will make his daughter laugh and get half of his fortune. So lots of men tried to make her laugh, but none of them succeeded. Now, when Jack was passing his house, his daughter saw Jack with a donkey on his shoulders and singing. As he got closer, she could hear that he was kind of singing to the donkey because the donkey was going ee-aw, ee-aw, and the man was imitating it ee-aw, ee-aw. Oh, you're coming home with me ee-aw, ee-aw, and mom's going to be so happy ee-aw, ee-aw, when she sees you and me and my donkey ee-aw. She had never seen such a silly thing. A man carrying a donkey over his shoulder and singing to a donkey. Soon she began to smile and then she began to laugh. When the rich man saw this, he called Jack. "Well, young man, I had promised that the man who will make my daughter laugh will marry my daughter and will also have half of my fortune. Put that donkey down." So Jack puts the donkey down and looked at the girl. But oh no, the donkey ran away. Well, but I have to take something home. Otherwise, mom will be very cross. So he picked up the girl, swung her around his shoulder because that's what mom had said. When his mother saw her son carrying the girl on his shoulder, she said, "Oh no, you silly boy, you shouldn't be carrying her on her back." Jack let the girl down and told her mother everything. Oh, so you should hold her hand and kiss her. Oh, yeah. Why didn't I think of that? So Jack kissed her and began to sing. Some say I am a lazy boy, but I am a lucky Jack, for I will have this pretty girl who's riding on my back. She says her name's Mackenzie, but I like to call her Mac. Her father's gift for the wedding is 50 lakhs. Mother, don't worry, we will get a house and leave this shack. And when we get married, I'll be the luckiest, jolliest Jack. And when he finished singing the song, Mac roared again with much more loud laughter. Later, they got married. And I'm glad to tell you that they lived happily ever after. Thank you.
How delightful, Shilpa. I laughed all the way through that. That was so lovely. Thank you so very much. All
Thank you
right.
for having me.
Great. Thank you. And I'll bring you back towards the end and you can
Yes.
talk to the people a little bit more. Now, we've had our East Coast tellers, we've had our teller from India, and let's go to our West Coast teller. Our first West Coast teller is actually from Kitimat, British Columbia, Canada. Prakriti Agrawal. She's also doubling as MC, as the tech tonight. So she is a very busy woman. Prakriti is a natural storyteller whose childhood love of books grew into a lifelong mission. Wrap every lesson in a tale that sticks. With humor, heart, and a hidden message woven into each narrative, she turns stories into lifelong companions and listeners into lifelong learners. Prakriti will give us a fairy tale tonight called The Third Wish. Please welcome Prakriti Agrawal.
Just wanted to clarify, it's a folk tale from India. Okay, so long, long ago, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a king. And this king was very religious, a very devout man indeed. One fine day, he had a thought that I need to build a magnificent temple at the entry of my kingdom. So it was done. And then, just to make it even more magnificent, he made an arch at the entryway and he issued a decree that whoever enters through that arch has to bow down and offer a prayer. If for any reason somebody misses it, they will be punished to death. So now, as it happens, one ignorant fellow, one washerman, a poor washerman, was coming from a faraway trip. And he was coming on his donkey with a cudgel in his hand and his sack of clothes. And as he crossed this arch, he did not know about this decree. And obviously, he did not bow down and offer his prayers. Immediately, he was pounced upon by the guards and dragged to the king. The poor washerman didn't know anything and he was begging, shivering, scared to death when the king came and said, twitching his mustache and rubbing his belly, "You did a crime. You courtiers, tell me, have you ever seen me, your majesty, cross that arch without bowing down and offering some prayer?" "No, no, no, not ever, your majesty," everyone said. "And you dare to do this?" "Sorry, sorry, sorry, your majesty, I did not know. I had been to my granny for 1 year and I did not know about this new rule that you had issued. I'm really sorry. Please forgive me. Please forgive me." He begged for mercy to everyone. But to no avail. The king was adamant that the death punishment has to be executed. But finally, after a lot of discussions with the ministers and the priests, they came to a conclusion that this man did the crime actually, unknowingly. So he would be granted 3 wishes. Helpless, this washerman did not know what to do, and he just prayed for a moment. And as he prayed, the cudgel in his hand, which was shivering, fell down. And with that thud, a fine light, a divine light came into his mind, and he got the indication of what he must do. Mustering his entire courage, he spoke in a clear, loud voice. My first wish, Your Majesty, is that you should send 20,000 gold pieces to my family. Immediately, the gold pieces were sent to his family, and a receipt duly signed by his wife was brought back. The king, again, twitching his mustache, rubbing his belly, reminded him, You know, man, you know that you can't ask for the royal throne or your wife or your life. Sorry, your wife is already there. But you can't ask for the royal throne or your life in these 3 wishes. You remember that, man? Huh? You are going to die for sure. The washerman folded his hands and said, Yes, Your Majesty. My second wish is that no matter what happens, even if I walk free today, you will not ask back for those 20,000 gold pieces. The king again laughed and said, You are going to die for sure, but yes, I can promise that no one will ask for those 20,000 gold pieces back. Your Majesty, my third and final wish is that everyone in this court, starting from you, have to be beaten by this cudgel of mine. Just 3 blows. One light blow, one medium blow, and one hard blow. Well, listening to this third wish, the king jumped from his throne. He didn't know what to do. He was so scared. He discussed with his ministers, he discussed with his priests, but everyone told him that this man is going to die, so you have to grant him the 3 wishes you promised for. Very scared, the king first got down from his throne and stood. The washerman came behind the king, lifted up his cudgel, and with the full force landed it on the king's shoulders, and the king fell down and swooned. For a few minutes, nobody knew what to do. And then everyone hustled and bustled, sprinkled some water, took out their shoes, made him smell it. Somehow, the king woke up. And then he opened his eyes and asked the washerman, Dear man, just tell me which category this blow belonged to. Was it a light, medium, or hard blow? Well, you'll get to know when you receive this next blow, my majesty. That was the time when king got up and he said, Guards, come here at once. Did you see this man offering a prayer? No, your majesty, we did not. Did you hear this man offering a prayer? No, your majesty, we did not. But do you claim that you hear and see everything that happens? No, your majesty, we don't. Then how can you be so sure? I am sure this man is very religious. He must have offered a prayer, though in silence. And that is how the washerman walked out scot-free, richer by 20,000 gold pieces, remembering that his prayer was answered. The prayer that he did just a little bit late, though. Thank you.
Just a little bit later. Thank you so much, Prakriti. That was enchanting. Thank you very, very much. Now, our next teller is Lee Amatangelo, Humorous Tales from a Serious Our next teller has a passion for doing Chautauqua-style one-person shows portraying historical figures. Tonight, he'll be recounting some light-hearted stories from a very significant event. Please join me in giving a Wait! Wait! Just in. Our next teller, Lee Amatangelo, will not be able to make it tonight. But in grand sack fashion, he has recruited a replacement teller. Now, I'm not certain who that is, so I will let the next teller introduce himself. For now, let's give him a hearty sack welcome.
Oh, thank you very much, Tina. Does anybody know what historical event has its anniversary today? Anybody? Exactly 80 years ago today, the first time in the human experience, we had detonated a nuclear bomb. That's right. Hi, I'm J. Robert Oppenheimer, and I have spoken here at SAC once before. For my work on the Manhattan Project, I garnered the title Father of the Atomic Bomb. But really, I just marshaled a stellar list of phenomenal scientists. But these nerdy folks at Los Alamos were not just all about the science. Some were jokesters and pranksters. Let's hear a few fun tales from the most historic and serious event which changed the course of history forever. To lead out the list, of course, we're going to start with General Leslie Groves. He himself was not a fun guy, but the way he behaved was so comical to us all. He led the Manhattan Project from the Army side. He had just finished building the Pentagon on time, under budget. There are no elevators in the Pentagon. Why? Because Groves didn't want any fat generals in the armed services. He himself was a fat man. The irony was not lost on any of us at Los Alamos. It is safe to say, though, that the Manhattan Project would not have been a success had it not been for Leslie Groves. One day, Groves visits Los Alamos at lunchtime, and he looks out over the compound, and he sees 9 men sitting around a picnic table eating their government-issued lunch. All 9 of those men had a Nobel Prize. At a great public expense, the US government had assembled the greatest collection of eggheads of all time. Well, just before midnight on July 15th, the eve of the test, 1945, I went to the tower where the gadget was hanging 100 feet in the air. It was the size of a VW Bug with wires coming out on all sides. Soon after arriving, General Leslie Groves arrives too, along with the local meteorologist, Jack Herbert. When Groves spots Jack, he shouts in his normal gruff manner, "What's the weather forecast for the test tomorrow morning?" Jack responds, "Well, it looks like there will be thunder showers all around the area." Groves explodes. "If it rains, there'll be hell to pay," as if Jack had any control over the weather. But that was Groves. Everybody who worked with Groves hated him. He was universally loathed. One of the gentlest scientists at Los Alamos, Kenneth Bainbridge, referred to him as the greatest SOB ever, but the greatest. Well, we also had our merry prankster, Richard Feynman. You all know him, professor at UC Berkeley. He was one of the most brilliant scientists that I had ever worked with, but insufficiently serious. He would break into secure labs at night, go to the safe, crack it, then pull out classified docs and leave them on the desk of the person in charge. We knew what he was doing. We could not make him desist. Now, the Los Alamos compound was highly secure. However, the security was in place to keep unauthorized people out. Those there at the compound could come and go as they pleased. On one occasion, Richard would leave the front entrance of the compound and wave to the sentry guards on hand. Hey, Joe, hey, Frank, and he would leave. 5 minutes later, he would show up again. Hey, Joe, hey, Frank, and he would leave. And another 5 minutes later, he would show up again. Hey, Joe, hey, Frank, and he would leave. Now, the problem was there was a hole in the fence somewhere that Richard Feynman had found, and they didn't know this. And once again, we knew what he was doing. He was a security nightmare, but we could not make him desist. Well, just 12 hours before the scheduled test, George Kitsiakowski, the mathematician we had brought in from Harvard, informs me that there's a problem with the implosion lens and the test would not work. I laid into him. Some called it the blue glare treatment because of my eyes. You have let this project down, a $2 billion project. You have let all the people who have worked on this project down. You have let me down. You have let General Groves down. Okay, Dr. Oppenheimer, I'll bet you $5 in your pocket versus 1 month of my pay that we will get this problem fixed and the test will go off tomorrow. I took that bet. The next morning, George and I were both located at the 10,000-yard observation station. When the gadget finally detonated, the blast was so great it blew George off his feet into the mud. He came up to me. He was splattered with mud from head to toe. Hey, you owe me $5. I reached into my billfold and I didn't have it. I don't have it. I'll have to pay you later, which I did. They think that $5 should belong in the Smithsonian. Well, also at that 10,000 foot observation station was Enrico Fermi. The pure scientist that he was, just before detonation, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a piece of paper and ripped it up into small, tiny shreds. And just before the blast hit him, he let it go. And he measured the displacement of all those papers. He then reached into his other pocket and pulled out a slide rule. And he calculated the equivalent tons of T&E that the blast was, 18 kilotons. He was spot on. Some say that slide rule belongs in the Smithsonian too. During the test, we had Sam Allison on the microphone counting down to detonation, while Tchaikovsky's Serenade for Strings blared over the New Mexican desert. Yes, very nerdy stuff. As Sam got closer to 0 in the countdown, he started to freak out. He thought maybe the blast would be like lightning and come through the wire of the microphone. So at 4, he threw down the microphone and then shouted 3, 2, 1, and the blast went off. Well, lastly, I'll leave you with this. There was betting pools to see how large the blast of the test would be. Some thought it would be 5 kilotons. Others thought maybe 7 kilotons. Some thought all of Santa Fe. Some thought all of Mexico. I thought it would be just a little blip in the desert. So I was down around 700 tons, not even 1 kiloton. The bombast Edward Teller came in at 45 kilotons. Zorabi was spot on at 18 kilotons, but there was another more macabre betting pool going on. Started with Edward Teller back at UC Berkeley. Once the nuclear chain reaction gets going, what if it ignites the entire atmosphere? Some scientists thought this was a real possibility. Even though this might have been an outcome, isn't it nice that the US military and government decided to still go forward with that test? I don't know about you, but I'm glad 80 years later, we are all here today enjoying an evening of humorous storytelling. Sometimes the behavior of some governments is so sad that it is comical. Well, Thank you for bringing me out of my eternal place of slumber to spend another evening in a sack genre to share some amusing stories from the past. Back to you, Tina.
And thank you very much, Dr. Oppenheimer. That was delightful. I had no idea what you were going to do. Thank you for surprising us all. And now we come to our seventh and final storyteller, Martine Bruce. Martine's been writing for years. She writes stories and vignettes for fun and a professional blog for her work as a patient advocate. As a student of the esteemed Barbara H. Clark in Los Angeles, Martine has studied the expressive world of storytelling, unveiling new creative skills and wider perspectives on life while honing her presentation skills. Although native to France and a polyglot, Martine's language of choice is English. She's presented her stories at shows with Ms. Clark and other venues, including the Storytelling Association of California and Tales by the Sea. Martine's most humorous person of the famous variety is Nate Bargatze, but she says the funniest person she knows is her classmate in Barbara's class, Donna Richardson. Please welcome Martine Bruce with The Killings of Halloween. Martine.
Thank you, Tina. If you ever meet my daughters, please do not mention the word holidays. Accusations will come flying. She, meaning me, ruined every one for them. That letter from Santa about doing better homework, I swear I never saw it. Kitten Blueberry running out of a house and getting itself killed on Christmas Eve, obviously not my doing. As for checking all their Kit Kats, out of their trick-or-treating bags, well, as a responsible parent, I should have checked for razor blades and other dangers on the news. But it's those 3 Halloweens while they were in middle school that they have not forgiven. Let me explain. It started with my boss. New tradition, we are starting a Halloween costume contest. There will be cash prizes. Ooh, cash prizes, I've never met one I haven't liked. I was up for the challenge. Sign me up, I said. This requires a whole day of preparation, I told my daughters. After spending some time at Joann's, the fabric store, I came home with fabrics in different black and white animal prints. Target provided other essential items. I spent the rest of the day hand sewing a fabulous costume. A leopard spotted black and white little skirt, a flimsy cow print top, and a very elegant zebra print little cape. I then painted a wooden chopsticks to look like a cigarette on a holder. What on earth happened to your hair? I asked one of my daughters. Why is one side completely white and the other completely black? And is that my Dalmatian Beanie Baby on a leash? The next morning, I put on bright red lipsticks, made sure my hair was evenly divided into 2 colors, one of which I really prayed was going to wash off, grabbed my dog on a leash and got to work. Second prize goes to Martine. Okay, I was a bit disappointed, but with a big smile on my face and a thank you on my lips, I took the $50 prize and drove to school, quite elated. Still in full costume with my dog on a leash, I headed towards the cafeteria. This is where my daughters would go to after school ended to do homework and whatever it was that tweens in those days before iPhones would do. But that day I was stopped by Dominique. Hello, he said. He was responsible for after-school programs, so I knew him well. Are you here to pick up the girls? Yes, I replied. Wait here, please. That was odd. But a short while later, anybody at school, and half of the neighborhood heard the PA announcement. Brittany and Yael report to the front yard, and I mean right now. Had my daughters gotten into trouble? Now, I should mention that being the only set of identical twins in that school, everybody knew my girls at least by sight. Every kid still in the building came rushing to the front yard to see what the fuss was about. So did my daughters, looking quite concerned. But when they saw me in full costume with a dog on a leash, heard all the kids kind of cheering me on, and saw Dominique's big grin, they figured I had done it all. The drive home, dinner, and several days later were met with icy silence, and no one asked me about my prize. The following year, I knew all had been forgotten. As I walked the aisles at Michael's, the arts and crafts store, I kept repeating, more creative, you must be more creative. And that's where I saw it. First prize, guaranteed. I purchased the large shimmering blue plastic salad bowl, a styrofoam donut the size of my head, crepe paper in blue and green, and a bucket full of little plastic figurines of undersea creatures. At home, I glued the styrofoam donut inside the bowl so that it would fit over my head. I then glued streamers of crepe paper all around in different lengths. Next, I attached every little fishy and whale and shark and even a mermaid to strings, which I also attached around the bowl. Wearing a light blue clothing underneath, it was fabulous. I looked like a giant jellyfish with all kinds of sea creatures floating around. The next morning, when my daughters saw me in full costume, they refused to get in the car, which was as well because me and the bowl would not both fit on the front seat. Also, I couldn't see anything through it. The whole day at work, I suffered through growing neck pains and headaches because I refused to take the bowl off my head. I also had to fake work the whole day because I couldn't see anything through it. Second prize goes to Martine. What? You gotta be kidding me. No, I want to recount. With a big smile on my face and a thank you on my lips, I took the $50, which did not cover the price of a costume or even the hours off I had taken, and drove to school, salad bowl less. My daughters were waiting there, sitting on the curb in the street. What on earth are you doing there? It doesn't matter, was the answer. The drive home, dinner, and several days afterwards were met with icy silence. No one asked me about my prize. The following year, I went all out. It started months before Halloween. I started collecting small stuffed birds that would tweet, tweet, tweet whenever slightly pushed or pressed. I practiced getting them to sing at just about the same time. The day before Halloween, another day off, I sharpied brown leggings into tree trunks and transformed a long-sleeve green t-shirt into the canopy. I cut leaves out of green felt, which I then attached to branches, rolled up brown felt, which I had hand-sewed over the top. I sprinkled a few plastic flowers here and there for better effect, and then I attached all my little birds on the branches. I completed the outfit with a straw hat covered with leaves and twigs. My costume chirped whenever I moved. It chirped and sang and tweeted all day long. Every time one of the birds would just slightly press against my desk or my chair. I had not thought about that. You should have thought about that, complained one coworker, or 10. The noise is driving us nuts. I couldn't hear a thing. All I heard was winner. Well, second prize goes to Martine. That can't be. I am robbed. Are you sure? With a big smile on my face and a thank you on my lips, I took the $50, which again did not cover the price of a costume or the hours off, and I drove to school, chirping all the way. When I got there, my daughters were not. A message had been left for me. We walked home. You know why. Now, they were not allowed to walk all the way home by themselves. So when I got there, I was met with icy silence. No one asked me about my price. I thought it best not to mention the do not walk home all alone rule. The following year, the contest was cancelled. The company has grown too large. We cannot manage it anymore, said my boss. Instead, lunch is on me, and everyone gets the afternoon off. My daughters were happy, I must say. But ever since, and many years have passed, I am still forbidden from uttering the words Halloween and costume in the same sentence. By the time October rolls along, so do the accusation. You killed Halloween for us. You stole our Kit Kats. Accusations which, again, I strongly deny. But now you might understand why Halloween costume creativity has never met the same levels since, and why no child trick-or-treating at my door can ever expect to receive any Kit Kats. Thank you.
Those were the most creative costumes I've ever heard of in my life, Martine. I can't believe that you didn't get first prize.
I know, I think it was rigged, let's face it.
And your daughters clearly don't
And my
appreciate
daughters have destroyed the pictures.
proper creativity. How can they? How can
I know. How can they be mine?
There, yes, I see Sarah says she'd have given you first place all 3 years too. All right, let's have the storytellers come on up and we'll do a little bit of talking. I'm gonna put something in chat here that just says who we had and what they were telling. So there's your list. I didn't put anybody's email addresses in because I forgot to ask you, but if you want people to know your email addresses, do feel free to put those in chat. And Raymond Pierce had to leave. He wasn't feeling very well, so we will start with our second teller, Rona Leventhal. It's midnight, Rona, but thank you for hanging in there with us.
Not quite. We got a half hour still.
So you don't usually tell on Zoom, right? You're usually
Since the pandemic, this is the first time I've done any Zooms for years.
well, you
And that's
haven't
been
lost your technique. You just did a splendid job. Thank you so much for coming. Tell us, what are you up to next?
well. I have a very busy summer and Halloween. Speaking about Halloween, my two busy seasons. So I have a very busy summer. And I'm also in a theater production. So between those two things, I am going. And Corey, I don't know if you saw my thing, but I'm actually on the Cape right now. So because I just did a show in Orleans today. So yeah, and then my usual stuff, just gigs. Yeah, nothing.
Your usual gigs.
Gigs.
That's great. Right?
Yeah.
Well, don't forget, I had a storytelling teacher that calls it a safety pee, by the way, that always before telling a story, take a
Yeah.
safety pee.
And actually, somebody put in the chat the VIP, which is a very, I want to say
Very
urgent.
immediate P. Very immediate.
What was it? A very what?
Very immediate P.
Immediate.
Very
Yeah. And
immediate.
actually, there's one that I forgot to mention, which is sort of like that, which is the EP with the expectant P, where your urgency gets greater and greater and greater until you finally get near the toilet and you feel like you can't hold it a moment longer. And then it feels so good when you actually get a chance to go.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of like that. Anyway,
I think we're all going to be remembering your story for a long time.
the whole story is true. Everything about it is true.
That's the fun thing with personal stories.
Yeah.
Now, tell me, Corey, where do you come up with these crazy ideas for story subjects?
I had been messing around with the idea of removing basically the plot out of movie. I love movies. It's like my favorite. My first love are movies. And I wrote a little story a long, long time ago where it was like movies for the conflict averse, but I never figured out what to do with it until I had an opportunity to tell it this show. So I just thought, what would be the vessel for someone describing movies with the conflict removed? And I thought, well, maybe if we're trying to build a new streaming service. So I don't know. One thing led to another.
Peace.
Yeah.
That's great. And what's up next for you, Corey?
I have a handful of shows coming up in Virginia next week, which will be fun near DC, and then in Middle Virginia, and then in Pennsylvania in August. And Rona, I was in Falmouth, I think is how it's pronounced, and Sandwich in Cape Cod. Just I that the show I was telling you about, Tina, the Campfire Ball show. These people hired me to do it at their wedding, which so it's basically like a show about the audience sharing stories. So I just turned it to find ways for the wedding guests to share stories about the bride and groom getting
That's
married.
awesome.
So
I'm actually in Falmouth right now.
are you kidding me? What a small world. I'd never been there before, and it was amazing. And a really fascinating time to be there because that's where Jaws was filmed, and it was the 50th anniversary. So there's a lot of Jaws themed programming happening up there and stuff. It's really interesting.
You didn't try to sell anybody on your
I pitch it to anybody who listens. We'll get it out there one day. Just wait. A tech billionaire I'm about to become. I'll be an oligarch.
Well,
Yeah,
speaking
right.
about sharks, Corey, if you ever come back to the Cape, just know that if you go to, I think it's Coast Guard Beach, and you shoot seals in the shallows of the waves, there's very possibly a shark behind them.
That's what the sound guide told us. He's like, if you ever see the seals, that means sharks are nearby. So watch out, sharks. Yeah. That's so funny. It's exact. I mean, multiple people said that. So there must be. They said they do have great whites up there, which is terrifying.
I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah.
You see any sharks by any
I
chance?
I did. I saw a seal. I did see a seal. I didn't see any sharks though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's go to India. All right. Shilpa. All right. How's your morning going so far?
Oh, amazing. What a beautiful way to start my day.
Ah,
Laughing,
thank you. Well, what a
enjoying
beautiful
smiling. So I think
way
I'm
to
going to
finish
spend the
it.
whole day smiling and recalling the stories. Yes, Rona. Every time today when I'll use the loo, I'll just think of you.
That was just
Yes.
perfectly delightful storytelling. Now, do you normally tell to adults, to children, when you talk to adults? Do you use the same version of the story that you would use for children, or how does it work for you?
No.
Okay.
Obviously, it's different when I deal with children. It has to be more funny, more interactive, more
Mm.
songs so that I can involve them. So with the children, it's not one-way telling, it's a two-way telling. I
Ah,
try to make it as interactive as possible. I try to involve them. after every some time I just want to involve them so that they are engrossed. Otherwise, I know the attention span is very less. Yes.
All
So
right.
my strategy is different for children, and whereas if I'm doing for adults, again, it depends what type of story I am doing. If I'm doing some intense story, then I use a little bit of slow music, and then it's only telling and then the discussion. But otherwise, if it's like fun telling or something which involves audience also, I make them clap, I make them sing, and I try to include a lot of Bollywood songs, because that's how I think it's very easy for me to make the connection with them.
Ah, thank you. Thank you very much. And I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Rona and Corey. What's up next for you?
Well, up next are 3 online events and then a bit of traveling.
Ah,
Yes.
wonderful. Okay. So you do stay busy with your storytelling, don't you?
Sort of, yes. And I am into writing also. I write stories also. So this upcoming project, so I have the rough draft of my story, which I have to finalize.
All
Yes,
right.
for my
Okay.
submission. Yeah.
That's just great. Thank you very much. All right. Thanks.
Thank you for having me. It was wonderful.
Oh, it was wonderful having you, Shilpa. And let's see, Prakriti, you were next, weren't you? All right.
Yeah, I
So,
don't have anything coming up right now, Tina, but it was great. I try and see some online opportunity because, yeah, here the storytelling has still not picked up. So,
well, tell us a little bit about Kitty Mat, because I don't
uh,
think too many people know where it is and how remote you are.
so Kitty Mat is just, I think, just below Alaska. We are 2.5 hours away from the border of Alaska. And the reason I came here is that the first LNG plant of Canada is being set up here, and they sent the first train. So they produce the LNG for the first time here now, and so every week we have new ships coming in, empty ships, and then they get filled up with LNG, and then they get sent to different places. And yeah, it's a beautiful place. If you have like, if you are ever in need, like Raymond said, if you are ever in need for a serene, quiet place, like I am living in a resort all the time. So sometimes I need a vacation from the resort and go into the city life. So yeah, so if ever you want to just come, if you're in for fishing, it's a beautiful place. People come in from even Australia for just for fishing trips, because I haven't been here for like I haven't been for fishing, but I've heard like people pick, like get even like big fish even with a small tiny fishing rod. So yeah, it's super fun for people who like fishing.
Do
The
you like
trails
to
and
fish
hikes are,
yourself? Do
I
you?
don't, I don't.
All right.
I do want to go on a fishing, like on a boat, just to watch how it is being done. But yeah, since I don't cook fish, like I don't, like I wouldn't want to kill and all, but I just want to go for the fun of it and just to enjoy the adventure.
That's wonderful. And
Yeah,
these
Corey,
stories that
I just wanted to say, Corey, for your story, I have to watch the movies again now and then watch the recording to.
Yeah.
Yes, right. And then
You
listen
run
to,
that risk.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yes. And Rona, seriously, you gave me another level of, inspiration, because I have so many peace stories myself, but I never thought of telling them to the public. But my goodness, yes. And especially my prolonged pee, it's like when I've been holding it for so long, and then when I stop and I start doing it, and it doesn't stop at all. So like my husband is like, "Oh my goodness, how much were you holding on to?"
There's an acronym for that.
Exactly.
Yes,
Exactly.
maybe.
Well, let me know when you come up with your story.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I should quickly come up with it. And Shilpa, Smart Jack, it was really amazing. You visualize the story for me? And Martin, wow. Please tell me who won the first prize and what was their costume. I'm so
What was their
curious about
costume?
Okay. The one I remember was the third year. It was Tim. Tim, everybody loved Tim. He was a big man with lots of tattoos in many colors, nose ring, earrings everywhere. And he was undressed like a baby with a giant diaper and a bib, a giant bottle. And somehow he had attached a baby pram, a baby stroller. He was walking in a baby stroller. I don't know how he did that. Anyway, okay, so it was fun, but I mean, we've seen the adults dressed as babies before.
Yeah, I know. I think it was rigged, Martin. Don't
I know, I
worry
think it was
about it.
too, but
Yeah.
Right.
then again, what can I say? It was fun until I
Anybody
was.
who's ever competed in anything knows what bad judging is like. Right.
Well, I still made $50 every year, so that was worth it.
Right. What happened to Lee, Prakriti? Did he say anything?
I don't know. I was looking for him, but I can't find him. So
Looks like
maybe
we
he dropped
lost
out.
him.
Yeah.
Well, I really loved his turn as Dr. Oppenheimer.
Yeah,
though.
I really wanted to talk to him about the Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Yeah, very nicely
But
written and incorporated.
now, Martina, I was thinking this afternoon, this is very interesting because this is the Storytelling Association of California's show, and yet you are the only storyteller tonight from California.
I am?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that something? Everybody's from somewhere else.
Well,
So,
Does she
you, the
get
French
50 bucks
woman, are the
extra for
only
that?
Californian.
Tina, does she get 50 bucks extra for that?
Nope.
And I
nope.
don't even have to dress up in a costume.
First prize.
So, thanks for the shameless plug for Barbara. Both Martine and I study with the eminent storyteller Barbara Clark, who is 91 now. She's an African American woman who was a librarian for 35 years down at the Los Angeles Central Library. And when she retired, she decided to start storytelling. And she's phenomenal.
Yeah,
Absolutely great. She's a regional gem for
and
SAP.
she still does one woman shows
Yeah.
at her
Yeah.
age.
And so
She-
every time that I say to myself, oh, this is so hard to remember my
I know.
story, got 10 minutes and stuff. And I think, if Barbara can do it,
Do it very well. I
what's
know.
my excuse?
She retired, then she unretired. Now she retired again, but I think she's unretiring again because she's putting on a show in September. So.
Yeah, which is great. So what are you up to next, Martine?
Well, maybe Barbara show in September. I'm not
Good,
sure.
good. And you let her know that you're interested because
She let me know that I
you
should be
are going to do
interested.
it. Okay.
I don't know. I don't know.
Sounds good.
I'm waiting for her to decide on, if they